Did you know there are 3 men in the Bible who never experienced death? Who are they and what is the secret behind their stories? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live without fear of death? How would you react if you knew there was a greater purpose waiting for you? In today's video, we'll explore these incredible biblical accounts that defy logic and reveal profound mysteries about life and immortality. Get ready for a fascinating journey that may change the way you view faith and eternity. Now that you know there are 3 men in the Bible who never experienced death, let's delve into the incredible stories of these fascinating biblical figures. These men, Enoch, Elijah, and Melchisedek, have remarkable accounts that not only defy logic but also offer valuable lessons and profound inspirations. Let's start with Enoch, the man who walked with God. Enoch is a figure mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Genesis. He is known to be one of the few men who never experienced death. Genesis 5 verse 24 tells us, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Enoch lived during the 7th generation after Adam, a time of increasing wickedness on earth. However, unlike his contemporaries, Enoch stood out for his unwavering faith and intimate relationship with God. The Bible records that Enoch walked with God for 365 years, a deep and constant spiritual journey, until God took him, transporting him directly to heaven without experiencing physical death. Enoch's story offers us several valuable lessons, such as faith and obedience. He lived a life of faith and obedience to God, fully trusting in God and following his ways, even in times of great corruption and wickedness. Enoch's walk with God teaches us the importance of developing a personal and intimate relationship with the Creator. This closeness not only shapes our character but also brings us peace and purpose. His story reminds us that there is more beyond this life. His ascent to heaven without experiencing physical death is a symbol of Christian hope in eternal life with God. Enoch's life can deeply inspire us in several ways. Spiritual growth. Like Enoch, we can seek to grow spiritually by cultivating strong faith and a deep connection with God, regardless of the circumstances around us. Courage and integrity. Enoch's courage to live according to his faith, even in a corrupted society, encourages us to maintain our integrity and values, even when pressured to do otherwise. Purpose in life. Enoch's story challenges us to find and pursue a greater purpose in our lives, which is to walk with God and live in a way that honors him. The second man who never died is Elijah, the prophet of fire. Elijah is one of the most important and influential prophets of the Old Testament, known for his courage, powerful miracles, and steadfast defense of the true faith in a time of great apostasy in Israel. He played a crucial role during the reign of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, when the idolatry of the god Baal was at its peak. Elijah's story is recorded primarily in the books of 1 and 2 Kings, and he is remembered as an example of faith, prophetic power, and zeal for true worship of God. Key events in Elijah's life. Resurrection of the widow's son. The widow's son fell ill and died, but Elijah fervently prayed to God, and the boy was resurrected, demonstrating God's power over life and death. 1 Kings 17 verses 17 to 24. Confrontation on Mount Carmel. One of the most dramatic events was the confrontation on Mount Carmel. Elijah challenged 450 prophets of Baal to a test to prove who was the true God. Elijah prayed, and God answered by sending fire from heaven to consume the sacrifice, while the prophets of Baal failed. This resulted in the execution of the false prophets and the restoration of faith in God among the people. 1 Kings 18 verses 20 to 40. Ascension to heaven. Elijah's ascension to heaven is one of the most extraordinary events in the Old Testament. The narrative is found in 2 Kings 2 verse 11, where Elijah, knowing his time on earth was coming to an end, prepared to be taken by God. Elijah and his disciple, Elisha, were traveling together when this miraculous event occurred. As they walked and talked, a chariot of fire with horses of fire separated them, and Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha, who witnessed the event, cried out in awe and sorrow, "My father, my father! The chariot of Israel and its horsemen." Elijah was then taken to heaven without experiencing physical death, leaving Elisha to continue his prophetic ministry with a renewed spirit and a double portion of his spirit. Biblical relevance. Elijah is a central figure in the Old Testament, remembered for his unwavering devotion to God and his crucial role in defending the true faith in a time of great apostasy. His life and ministry inspire faith, courage, and confidence in God's power. Elijah is also mentioned in the New Testament, where he appears with Moses at the transfiguration of Jesus, Matthew 17 verses 1-3, confirming his continued importance in the history of salvation. Elijah's life can deeply inspire us in several ways. Courage and faithfulness. Spiritual lesson: Elijah demonstrated unwavering courage in confronting corrupt kings and false prophets, defending God's truth without fear. Practical application: we should have the courage to stand up for our principles and values, even in the face of opposition and social pressure. Faithfulness to God and truth is essential, regardless of circumstances. Power of prayer. Spiritual lesson: Elijah's life was marked by powerful prayers that resulted in impressive miracles, such as the resurrection of the widow's son and the descent of fire from heaven. Practical application: we should cultivate a life of fervent prayer, believing in the transformative power of prayer. Through prayer, we can experience God's movement in our lives and in the lives of those around us. Seeking the presence of God. Spiritual lesson: Elijah found renewal and guidance by seeking God's presence on Mount Horeb, where God revealed himself to him in a gentle whisper. Practical application: we should seek moments of solitude and reflection to hear God's voice in our lives. Intimacy with God is vital for our spiritual renewal and receiving divine guidance. Transmission of legacy. Spiritual lesson: Elijah passed on his mantle and ministry to Elisha, ensuring the continuation of God's work. Practical application: we should be concerned with passing on our faith and values to future generations. Mentoring and discipling others are crucial for the growth and continuity of faith. Would you like to dive deeper into the powerful lessons discussed in this video? In the comments, we provide a valuable resource that complements the content discussed here. Don't miss the opportunity to enrich your journey of spiritual and personal growth. Click the link and explore even more deeply the path of positive change. Melchisedek, king and priest of the Most High God, just like Enoch and Elijah, never died. Melchisedek is a mysterious and fascinating figure in the Bible, first mentioned in Genesis 14 verses 18-20. His brief appearance has a significant impact, and he is referenced again in Psalm 110 and the New Testament, especially in the letter to the Hebrews. Melchisedek is both a king and a priest, which is rare and significant in biblical narrative. He is introduced as the king of Salem, which many scholars believe to be an ancient city that later became Jerusalem. Salem means peace, and therefore, Melchisedek is often understood as the king of peace. In addition to being a king, Melchisedek is also described as a priest of the Most High God, El Elyon. This is particularly notable because he is not part of the Levitical priesthood lineage that would be established much later with the descendants of Aaron. Melchisedek serves as a priest before the Mosaic law is given, representing a different and older priesthood order. Melchizedek's appearance occurs when Abraham, then called Abram, returns from a victory over several kings. Melchizedek brings bread and wine and blesses Abraham, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." Genesis 14 verses 19-20. In response, Abraham gives Melchizedek a tenth of everything he has gained, acknowledging his spiritual authority. Meaning and relevance. Melchizedek is a typological figure, foreshadowing Christ in the New Testament. In Psalm 110 verse 4, it is said that the Messiah will be a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. This passage is developed in the letter to the Hebrews, where Jesus is compared to Melchizedek, highlighting that Jesus is an eternal priest, not according to the order of Aaron, but according to the order of Melchizedek. This association emphasizes the eternal and superior nature of Christ's priesthood. Interpretation of Melchizedek's immortality in Hebrews 7 verse 3. In Hebrews 7 verse 3, the figure of Melchizedek is presented as being without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. This intriguing description suggests a symbolic immortality for Melchizedek, as he is portrayed as having no beginning or end of life, in contrast to the Levitical priests who were subject to mortality. The absence of mentioned genealogy is especially significant because, in Jewish culture, genealogy was crucial for identifying priestly status. The Levitical priests were descendants of Aaron, and their lineage was carefully documented. However, Melchizedek is described as having no recorded genealogy, placing him in a unique and transcendent category. This interpretation of immortality does not necessarily mean that Melchizedek lived forever physically, but rather that his figure is used to illustrate deeper spiritual principles. He is portrayed as a type of Christ, an eternal priest whose priesthood is not based on physical descent but on his divine and eternal nature. Therefore, Melchizedek's immortality highlights the superiority and eternity of Christ's priesthood over the Levitical priesthood. Lessons we can learn from Melchizedek. Universality of the Gospel. Melchizedek being a priest of the Most High God even before the institution of the Levitical priesthood underscores the universality of the Gospel. This shows that salvation is not restricted to one nation or lineage but is available to all who seek God in faith. Justification by faith. Abraham recognized and honored Melchizedek by bringing him a tithe of everything. This demonstrates that salvation has always been by faith, not by works. Melchizedek represents the righteousness that comes by faith in God, as opposed to the law and rituals of the Levitical priesthood. Authority and sovereignty of God. As the king of Salem and priest of the Most High God, Melchizedek is a figure of authority in peace. He reminds us of God's sovereignty over all nations and the promise of peace that comes through submission to him. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing what you've learned from the stories of Enoch, Elijah, and Melchizedek, or your own interpretations of these biblical figures. Your input is valuable to enrich our community here on the channel. Also, if you enjoyed the video and found the shared lessons helpful, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends and family. This helps us reach more people with inspiring messages like this one. Finally, stick around with these two videos and gain even more insights into mystical and biblical themes.